Tell me, what do I need to do? Step 1, find the longest chain. So which is my longest chain? In this case, it's obvious. It's going straight line. Okay? So I box it. And then what do? I circle the branches. So 1, 2, 3. What do you notice about all of the branches? They're the same. They're method. Okay? So I have to use a prefix that tells me that there's 3 of the same kind. So what's the prefix for 3? Tri. Okay? So mono means 1. Di means 2. Tri means 3. And tetra means 4. Now we don't use this too much here, okay? Because 1 is 1. You don't have to say it. But you do need to say these ones here. Okay? So if you see 2 or more of the same branch, then you need to use a prefix before. And you're not expected to know more than 4. That's why I stopped at 4. Okay? So I have 3 of them. Okay? So I need to say trimethyl. But before the trimethyl, I need to say where the locations are. So at which locations do I start to see the methyls? So I can count 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. I'll reach the same number. Okay? So I'm going to start 1, 2, 3. So at position 3, how many methyls do you see? 2. So I need to say that I have 1 here and 1 here. So the way I do this, I put the number 3, comma 3. This tells me at position 3, I'm seeing the 2 side chains. But I also see it somewhere else. Where do I see it? 5. So this is 4 and this is 5. So I do comma 5. I only do it this way for the ones that are the same. If they're not, then I do it like I did before. 3 dash methyl dash 6 something else. Does that make sense? But when they're the same, this is to tell me that it's the same side chain, the same branch, but in different positions. Okay? So 3 for this one, 3 for this one, and 5 for this one, dash. How many did we say we have? 3. So then it's tri-methyl. And my longest chain is heptane. Okay? So how many numbers do I see? 1, 2, 3. This has to be the same as the prefix there. Okay, so that prefix is telling me that there's 3 methyls at these 3 locations. Does that make sense? Let's try this one. Who wants to have a go? What do I do first? I box the longest chain. So I box the longest chain. And then what? I circle the side branches. Okay, and then what? From which end am I going to count? From the left or from the right? From the right, because this is quickest to hear. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, at what position do I see the methyls? 2. How many of them do I see? 2. So how do I say that? 2, comma 2, dash, di. Well done. Dimethyl butane. Done. Does that make sense? So again, the numbers tell me the locations of the branch. And the prefix here, di, tri, tetra, tells me how many of them I have. Okay? Alright, so are we okay with getting the names, instructions, and then I have to name them? Do I have any questions about that? Okay, the next part is that you have a name and you need to draw the structure. Okay? In order to solve this, you start from the end and then you move into the prefix. So I will always start off with the end and then I'll figure out where these are. Always start off with the end and then I'll figure out these, and then at the end and then I'll figure out these. So what do I mean? When you draw the skeleton, then you know where things are, and then the rest of it is basically putting the hydrogens in. Okay? So Jinan, if I have a butane, how many carbons is that? 4. So I will start off by drawing carbons. I don't put the hydrogens yet. Okay? What is my side chains? But what is the actual chain, the branch? CH3, because it's actually a methyl group, but there's 3 of them. Trimethyl means that there's 3 methyls. Okay? At what positions do I see the methyl? 2 and 3. Okay, so it doesn't matter from which end you're going to start. The 2 starts here or from here, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that means I have a CH3 here, and a CH3 here, and a CH3 here. Doesn't matter if you put it down or up, it's still the same. And then the rest of the molecule is what? Hydrogens. So I have a CH3 here, and a CH3 here, and a hydrogen here. That's it. Does that make sense? So for these things, you start from the end in. Do this one for me. What do I do? Pentane means how many carbons? 5. So I draw the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are my branches? I have dimethyl. That means I have 2 of them. At which position? 3. So 1, 2. They're at position 3. And then the rest of it is what? That's what you do. So this is CH3, this is CH3, and this is a hydrogen, and this is a hydrogen, and this is a hydrogen, and this is a hydrogen. Does that make sense?
Can I write them as CH2?
You can write them as CH2. If you're ready to do that, do that. Okay? This is basically to help people who can't see the CH2s yet. This is the full structural. What you're talking about is getting into the condensed as well. Does that make sense? Okay, what about the last one? 4-ethyl octane. From what end do I start? I start from the octane end. So the octane is how many carbons? 8. So I will draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then what? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what do I add there? And ethyl is how many carbons? Okay, so I'll put the 2 carbons first, and then I'll fill everything else with the hydrogens. When you do the carbon backbone, you can't go wrong. Always start off with the carbons first, and then fill in the hydrogens. Does that make sense? Okay, so here I will have a CH3. Always, your ends are always going to be CH3, because it's the last carbon. That means that that carbon is attached to 3 hydrogens and another carbon on the other end. Okay? So fill those in first, and then the rest you can write as CH2s, and then CH2s, CH2s, or you can draw them out. So this one is only going to have 1 hydrogen from one end, and then you're going to have the hydrogen from everywhere else.